I had, a few different things going on. I had finished my Sunday school for Sister Sandra and I do 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off, so I was done. And she did a couple weeks, and then she was going to Oklahoma, so she needed someone to cover. So, of course, I wasn't going to say no because we team up to do that. So picking up Sunday school last week and for this week, so preparing for that. And with my new position at work, I've been more busy kind of traveling and some different tasks and things burdened to me. So I've been busy with that. And then I have the St. Pat's Road Race coming up on Saturday, which is my choice to do. That's another thing. And then also the past couple weeks, I've just been hit with a real nasty cold. Got like an ear infection and all sorts of crazy stuff. So it's like, it's just one thing after another. And then Pastor asked me if I want to take Thursday. Well, one of 2 Thursdays when he was gone. Next Thursday I'll be in Florida for work, so I only had one choice. And you can't really say no when Pastor asks you. It's kind of I consider a privilege to be asked to come up here. So to say no, I don't know, it's kind of a slap in the face probably. So anyway, so here I am, here to speak on Thursday night. The topic I'm going to speak about, it's a topic it's kind of always been near and dear to my heart. It's important to me, and I think it's very relevant to our body. And when Pastor first asked me, I said yes, kind of maybe thinking I would go in this direction, but I wasn't sure. And then over last Thursday and Sunday, he's kind of confirmed that for me in his spin, and then I'll put my spin on it. Basically, he's been talking about just figuring out ways just to love each other more, for this body to love each other more, and what that means. So I'm going to start out by using a couple of videos to kind of help me get to my point. So if we can get the first video queued up, Peter, we'll play that, so sit back and watch that for a few minutes. You may need to grab a box of tissues depending on how emotional you get, but so sit back and watch this one, and then I'll talk for a couple minutes, and then we'll do another one. I have to turn the volume way up. Hopefully. Maybe.
This morning we're launching a new series called Today's Real Heroes. Our national correspondent Natalie Morales is here with an unforgettable pair, Natalie.
And it's a story you have to see to believe. Our real heroes today are Dick and Rick Hoyt, better known as Team Hoyt. And if you haven't heard of them yet, be prepared. They're almost legends in their own right, and you'll see right now why they are heroes to so many. This is one of the greatest love stories of all time. A story of a father who climbs mountains and runs to the ends of the earth and back to give his son a better life. A life that transcends the limitations of his body. Rick Hoyt's fight started at birth 44 years ago when the umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck.
He looked beautiful and he was strong and he was laying on his stomach, and I thought he was doing push-ups. But what it was, he was having spasms.
The doctors told Dick and Judy Hoyt that their son had cerebral palsy and would never be able to walk or talk.
They said, forget Rick, put him away, put him in an institution. He's going to be nothing but a vegetable for the rest of his life. And we said, no, we're not going to put Rick away. We're going to bring Rick home and bring him up like any other child.
So when the Hoyt family went to the beach for a swim, Rick went too.
He'd sink down the bottom and he'd look up and start laughing. He played street hockey. We'd just get a stick and push him in a chair and hold the stick for him. We did everything with him that we did with the other two boys.
And Rick responded.
And you look in his eyes, and he was looking right at you, and you could tell that he understood everything you were talking about.
But it wasn't until he was 12 when Rick found his voice, called the Hope Machine, a computer system created by a team of Tufts engineers.
Hopefully people will look at me as an intelligent person and look past my disabilities.
And he could tell us exactly what he wanted, how he felt, you know, where he wanted to go. And it got him to go to school, and he got to be able to talk to a lot of other people.
It was at high school where Rick first learned of a 5-mile charity road race for a paralyzed teenager.
And he said, Dad, I have to do something for him. I want to let him know that life goes on.
For Dick, who wasn't a runner, it was a call to action as a father.
Rick told me, he said, Dad, when I'm running, it feels like my disability disappears.
And that was all Dick needed to hear. Now, at the age of 66 and 44, Dick and Rick have run 950 races, 60 marathons, including their 25th Boston Marathon this year. They even started doing triathlons, competing in 6 Ironmans, the ultimate test of strength and endurance. All the way, Dick pulls, pushes, and carries Rick's 110-pound frame over the course of the 2.4-mile swim, 112-mile bike ride, and 26.2-mile run.
So on this day, we're going for a leisurely stroll. This is a slower pace than you two normally go, right?
Oh, this is a nice pace, too. That's a good break.
But they don't slow down for long.
As long as we're still having fun, we're enjoying it, and we're healthy, we're going to continue doing it.
But it's Rick's achievements on the sidelines that are most awe-inspiring.
I may be disabled, but I live a very fulfilling life.
Not only did Rick graduate from high school, but also from college, earning his degree from Boston University. And he now lives in his own apartment.
I have shown to disabled people that they don't have to sit back and watch the world go by. They too can go to school, get a job, and be included in everyday life.
The Hoyt's motto is simply, you can. And they've made so many believe anything is possible.
He's competing in road races, competing in triathlons.
Now all of a sudden, all of these videos are popping up on us, and people are emailing around the world, and it's just a great feeling.
I read them an email they recently received, one of thousands, from a perfect stranger.
I write this because I'm a father. To my shame, I have been nothing like you, Dick. I have been selfish more than I've been selfless. I'm not raising my son the way I had intended to raise him. And up to this point, you could say, I failed. But yesterday, in a moment's time, I was changed. My heart was broken when I saw how much you must love your son to put yourself through such agony that he might experience the thrill of the race. Yesterday, it became less about me and more about being my children's father. I thank you, sir. You hear this over and over again.
Yes, yeah.
It clearly is, it touches you every time.
It really does. Yeah.
But you're more than a father. I mean, you are a hero to so many. And most importantly, you're a hero to Rick.
I just think of myself, and I just love my family. And I just want to be the very best father I can be.
All right, that's good. Just kind of does a few more clips and whatnot. That's, excuse me, that's taken right off their website. They play the I Can Only Imagine song, and just a lot of the clips earlier from the video kind of get replayed and whatever. I don't know, I wasn't able to find proof for sure whether or not these guys actually are Christians or not. They obviously, like I said, that comes from their website, and they have, I Can Only Imagine, it's obviously a faith Christian-based song. But they don't openly say anything like that on their website that they are Christians or not. I like to hope that they are. But anyways, so I've known of this family for a long time. They're actually from Massachusetts. They currently live in Holland, which I think is kind of central part of the state. They lived in Westfield for a while because Dick was Army Reserve at the Barnes base. So the first time I remember seeing them was actually competing when I did team triathlons, where I would just do the run. I remember seeing them. In Ludlow, we did a triathlon, and just watching this guy out in the pond, and he just throws a rope over him with his, excuse me. With his son in the back, and he just goes around, swims with him. And just, it's just an amazing thing to watch in person. And just some of the things, that video is from 2007. So they've done a lot more even since then. And just for some perspective, I mean, the fastest marathon that they've ever done is 2 hours and 40 minutes, which is just over a 6-minute mile pace. The fastest I've done is 2 hours and 53 minutes, and that's doing it by myself. I mean, this guy's pushing a 110-pound man. Last year I did a 5K around the reservoir. I actually pushed Jaden and did it in just about a 6-minute mile pace, and their best 5K time is, mine was 18:27 and theirs was 17:40. So like 15 seconds faster than I've ever done. So it's just, and you look at that guy, right now he's 74 years old, and they're gonna do, last year was supposed to be their last Boston Marathon, but they didn't get to finish because of the bombing. So they're doing it again this year, and it's gonna be their last one. But just a couple more stats, just to kind of give a little basis here. So they've done 247 triathlons, 6 of them being the Ironman. And what the Ironman is, it's the ultimate test of a triathlon. Triathlons can vary in distance, but the Ironman is the ultimate. You do a 2.4-mile swim, usually in open ocean. Then you do a 112-mile bike. And then you do a full marathon, so 26.2 miles. You do this all consistently. You don't take like a day off or anything like that. This just goes. And the Ironman that they do in Kona, Hawaii, which is usually the World Championship, I mean, that's in Hawaii, so it's known for just crazy conditions. You're running through lava fields. You're doing all sorts of nuts stuff. They've done 70 marathons, 30 of them Boston, 216 10Ks. They've done almost 1,100 total events in their life so far. So it's just crazy. Like I said, the guy's 74 years old, and he's going to run a marathon in a couple of weeks. So they're being recognized in Holyoke this weekend with the JFK Award they do in conjunction with the St. Pat's Parade. And Karen and I have the chance to go to that dinner on Saturday night, so that's going to be pretty cool. So anyways, what are my takeaways from this? Besides just, obviously these guys have accomplished crazy stuff in endurance sports and athletically, but what are the takeaways for us, and what does it mean for the church? Obviously, for his son, he has a ridiculous amount of determination and commitment for a cause. Like he said, the cause was that his son felt alive when he ran. His disability felt like it went away. For us, Christianity is a choice, and it's a very long road. It can be very difficult. It can be easy. But it takes determination and a commitment to that cause. And that's what we have to stand for. So that's the parallel there. The bigger picture, if you step back, is obviously a father's love for his son. There's obviously a direct parallel there. Christ gave everything for us, and his agony was on the cross for us to take away our sin. And I know that he would tell you, the father there, Dick, it's not an easy thing to go out and run a race, whether it's a 5K or a triathlon, and let alone pushing someone. So just the agony there that you can, and it's just crazy, the parallels. And once again, Christ with the church, how he just carries us through what we might say our disabilities or that sort of thing. Obviously, none of us have anything to, like Rick does, but we have our own vices or our own things that can get in the way. 1 John 3:16 from the Message Bible says, "This is how we've come to understand and experience love. Christ sacrificed his life for us. This is why we ought to live sacrificially for our fellow believers and not just be out for ourselves." It also reminds me of a poem, a fairly famous poem. Some of you may or may not be familiar with it. It's called Footprints in the Sand. "One night I dreamed I was walking along the beach with the Lord. Many scenes from my life flashed across the sky. In each scene I noticed the footprints in the sand. Sometimes there were 2 sets of footprints. Other times there were 1 set of footprints. This bothered me because I noticed that during the low periods of my life, when I was suffering from anguish, sorrow, or defeat, I could see only 1 set of footprints. So I said to the Lord, you promised me, Lord, that if I followed you, you would walk with me always. But I have noticed that during the most trying periods of my life, there have only been one set of footprints in the sand. Why, when I needed you most, you have not been there for me? The Lord replied, the times when you have seen only one set of footprints is when I carried you. So I just want to show that second video. It's shorter. It's only 4 minutes, if we can cue that one up. And while that's queuing up, so the main topic that I want to discuss, if I was going to title something today, would be, for Christ Life Fellowship, would be teamwork. Teamwork is my ultimate goal that I want to walk away with here, and how I feel teamwork is relevant to our body and a very important thing. So if we can cue that other one, like I said, this one's a little shorter. So let me just first preface by saying, do I think there's a problem or anything here in this church? No, not at all. Do I think we already have teamwork and we are a good team? I do. But we can always improve, right? We can always get better. So a lot of stuff flashed through there quickly, but it was a lot of important information. So first, flying in formation creates shelter and uplift for the other birds, meaning that the whole flock can fly 71% further than flying alone. I'll liken it to something, I guess, relevant to me. So it'd be like doing the St. Patrick's Road Race, which is 6.2 miles or 10K, but only making it to about 3.5 miles, which would be, for those of you who know the course, around the HCC mile. Or maybe, or you could run all of the 6.2 miles yourself, but if you were doing it with the team, you'd be able to go 10.6 miles. So you're not able to do the whole thing, or you could do just that much more going along with the whole team. Next, each goose takes a turn leading. How relevant and important is that for us? For example, Pastor wanted a vacation. He deserves a vacation, right? Someone else has to step in and do those things that he needs to do, whether it's the elders or whoever, whether it's taking a service or any other important thing that happens while he's gone that needs to happen here on home base. We need to take our turn leading. Flying in formation, we all see them fly in that V. There's that specific shape that they do. It's a shared direction and it gives a sense of community. That's why they do that together. Each bird is able to rest and also help one another out. They said that they alternate taking the lead and then the others will go towards the back. They share the load and they share the responsibilities. That means that no one gets tired and no one gets worn down. It's not just one person taking the whole burden on all the time. That's a really important principle. I looked up on eSword, put in the word share, and one verse in particular stood out, 1 Timothy 6:17 through 19. Charge the rich in this world that they be not high-minded, nor trust in uncertain riches, but in the living God. He offering to us richly all things to enjoy, that they do good, that they be rich in good works, ready to share, to be generous, laying up in store for themselves a good foundation against the time to come, that they may lay hold on eternal life. This verse plays into the idea of sharing the load. Having one purpose and one goal, ultimately working together, this is the point. Grabbing hold of eternal life is what our point and our purpose is. But rest doesn't just mean sitting back on your laurels and watching other people do the work or that sort of thing, because maybe it's your time or whatever. Like they said, the geese who are flying in the back, they do the honking. They're encouraging. They're spurring that person on who's leading them. They're building them up to help them take them through the next course until someone else takes it. Then they drop back and it's their time to then honk, because they're not breaking the wind. They're not doing the work, the hard work, but they need to be encouraged by those behind. It might be your turn to rest in whatever you think that might be, but there still is a job to do, and we still have to be active participants. Couple examples. This time of year is March Madness time, tournament time. If you sit and you watch, obviously, say in a basketball game, for example, there's only 5 guys on the court, but there's more than 5 guys on a team. There's probably at least 12 guys. Usually they call them starters for a reason. They're the ones who are going to play the most of the game. So you got another 7 or 8 guys who are just on the bench. If you watch the real team, the true teams, you watch when someone scores, the guys that get up and they go crazy, they go nuts. Usually it's the white guy on the team or whatever, right? But he's the one going crazy. He's the one who's encouraging and building everyone up. But he has a role. He knows his role. It doesn't mean he's not as good to be a top 5 starter on that team, but obviously he made the team, so he has relevance. He has importance. I liken it to me personally. We have a couple young kids right now. Obviously, that can be a struggle. It can be a struggle just to get through a service on a Thursday or a Sunday. Does that mean, maybe that's somewhat of a time of rest or something, or restlessness? But that doesn't mean that we're just in the stands spectating. You still have a role. You still have something to function. We all have different roles that we're operating in right now, whether you're married, not married, have kids, kids are out of here, grown, you know. We serve different functions and different roles. Another important part, when one of those geese drops out of formation due to sickness or injury, at least two other drop back and help to protect it until it's fit again. Sometimes you'll see that, you know. You'll see a V up in the sky, and it's unequal. Probably because at least one has had to drop, so others have had to drop with it. Then you might see only a couple there that can't create their own V because there's only maybe 3 or 4 of them. But they had to stop back for whatever reason, and now they're still moving on. But they're moving on as a group, just a smaller group. We need to share the responsibility to care for those who are struggling, and whatever that might be. It makes me laugh. I read or audiobooked a book called Wild at Heart. I don't know how many have heard of it. It's basically a book for men. It's a Christian book by a Christian author. It's very good. I would recommend it if you have the chance to read it, or I just listen to it on my drive back and forth to work all the time. At one point early on in the book, it says there's like 2 people he's talking about engaging at service. And a guy walks by, he's like, "Hey, Joe, how's it going?" And Joe says, "Oh, it's good. How's it going for you?" And it's just this casual thing. But in reality, he says, and in the back of my mind, well, Joe is actually getting ready to have a divorce and that sort of thing. But how would you know that, you know? There's just that, how many times we just, oh, you know, I'm doing fine or whatever, and you just kind of go your own way. So trying to figure out if people are struggling or trying to get to the bottom of that. It wouldn't have to be that either, just if someone's down and out because they had to have surgery or their sickness or that sort of thing. Just taking care and sharing that responsibility of caring. It doesn't always have to be burdened on one person. Ecclesiastes 4:9-12. 2 are better than one because they have a good reward for their toil. For if they fall, one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him who is alone when he falls and has not another to lift him up. Again, if 2 lie together, they keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? And though a man might prevail against one who is alone, 2 will withstand him. A 3-fold cord is not quickly broken. Nobody climbs Mount Everest, for example, alone. It's impossible. To accomplish great things, we all need teammates and a supporting cast to pick us up. And we need to look for opportunities to pick each other up as well. I think of that 3-fold cord. You think of if you ever took or saw like a climbing rope, whether it's for climbing a tree or literally climbing a mountain or that sort of thing. It's not just one single fiber. If you cut that thing up, it is made into so many fibers. And all those, when they're all put together, if they were all just hanging individually, it wouldn't be as strong. But they're all together and they're all intertwined throughout each other. And that's what gives it this enormous strength. Matthew 18:20, for where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of them. So this idea of 3-fold cord, 3 geese dropping back, it's amazing how nature just reflects God's order in his divine plan. Ephesians 4:16 was the verse they referred to. From whom the whole body, fitted together and compacted by that which every joint supplies, according to the effectual working in the measure of each part, producing the growth of the body to the edifying of itself in love. I mean, these geese just give a great example of team. They're fitted together, every joint supplies, and it's producing growth of the body. So hopefully, looking at that and going through this, it gives you maybe next time a greater appreciation. You see some geese in the sky, or if you're over at the reservoir or at Stanley Park walking around and they're hissing at you, you get a little greater appreciation for them. So team. Some may not have ever played on a sports team before. I understand that. People might just think, oh, you know, Chris is into sports. He's always talking about sports, that sort of thing. Well, let's take a step back for a bit. Think of your family. Family is a team. Think of your workplace. That should be a team. Think of this body, this church. It should be a team as well, right? What is a team? Webster says, work done by a number of associates, usually each doing a clearly defined portion, but all subordinating personal prominence to the efficiency of the whole. I'll read that one more time. Work done by a number of associates, usually each doing a clearly defined portion, but all subordinating personal prominence to the efficiency of the whole. So I grew up playing on teams when I was younger, little league soccer, a little bit of basketball here and there, that sort of thing. But when it came to when I found out what my real sport was going to be, cross country and track, it was still a team, but it was definitely a lot more individual. I found myself just kind of by myself most of the time. So there was still a little bit of a team aspect, but it's really kind of doing your own thing. Whether you're practicing, you're doing it by yourself. If you're running races, you're kind of doing it by yourself. It's a very different concept. So after Karen and I got married, she had always grown up playing on teams as well. That was an important aspect to her. So we played indoor soccer for a few seasons because of that team aspect that we enjoyed. That's a main reason why I like to do our church softball team. That'll be entering its 10th season this spring, which is crazy. I just enjoy that camaraderie and the dependability that we have. And not only the camaraderie and what that does to build each other up, but it keeps you dependable, and then it keeps others to be dependent upon you as well. You have to rely on each other. There's the whole aspect. You could think of the different positions and that sort of thing, and you could just go on and on and on about it. You could say, pastor is our pitcher, and someone has to put the ball in play, and then we have to then take it from there. We have to, you have to try to get the out. You got the infielders are important. You got the outfielders. There's so much there. But the team aspect, that's why, like I said, I always enjoy doing it because, running is great and it's good for personal, individual achievements and challenges and that sort of thing. But it's definitely lacks any sort of that team aspect and the camaraderie, which I feel is so important. So team, as I said, it's also a very relevant and pretty popular topic in the workplace, depending on whether you're corporate or that sort of thing. It doesn't really have to be just corporate, though. It can be out on a job site. It can be at a school setting. It can be anything. If you're all working together as a common goal, then automatically that means team. But it can be very loosely thrown around. It can be just kind of thrown around in a negative way. If someone's just going to say, oh, we need to be a better team, and that's going to yield better results or that sort of thing. Well, if you don't do anything about it, all you do is talk about it. It's not going to, it just falls on deaf ears. People say, oh, it's just another thing or whatever. We got to be a better team. Okay, well. But it can also be a very powerful and a motivational tool that promotes good, solid, and productive workplace. In our company right now, this is a really relevant thing. I'm part of the leadership team at our company, as part of our succession plan. And something that we felt, based on meeting with a consultant, was to do a survey, a culture survey at our business. We hadn't done one since before I was there, which is well over 10 years, or over 10 years now. So we've had people who have stayed for a number of years. We have a number of people who have been there over 25 years. But then we've had other people come in and out and whatever. But we feel right now we have a really good group of people. But you can always do better, right? So we wanted to do this survey to find out what we do better, what we do well, but then also what we can be improved upon to make us better and to make us achieve more. So just a little background for those who don't know, what my company does, it's architectural millwork. What that is it's custom cabinetry, custom countertops. Everything is custom. Reception desk, wall paneling, pretty much anything an architect can think of and draw and put it on a piece of paper, we get the opportunity to build that and put a price tag on that. So we're not Home Depot. We don't pull it off the shelf or anything. It's all custom. It's all built on site. It's a very cool thing, and I'm happy to be part of it, and that my dad was able to give me the opportunity to come in. So that's kind of what we do. But one of the main things that came out of our survey was office versus shop issues. So what we call it is we've got the concrete floor, the shop, and then we've got the carpet, which is the office. So you just take a step back, and you have to kind of see both sides of the picture. So, in the summer when it's 100 degrees outside and it's 105 degrees in the shop, and the guys come in for break and they feel the air conditioning, it can be a little easy to be disgruntled. When we're sitting there and we still have to wear long sleeve shirts and the other guys are sweating, it's just crazy. Same thing in the wintertime. When it's 60 degrees or 55 degrees in the shop and we've got the heat blasting at 75 in the office, people can get kind of disgruntled. Now that's really a minor thing. It's just kind of the way it is, and it's just part of the workplace. But So some issues were identified through this survey. So what we did is we hired another consultant who's coming in and over a few-month process is going to help us work through that. What we did is we gave everyone a personality test. I can only imagine what that would be like if we did that here. But anyways, what this did, this personality test, it's called a Myers-Briggs test. Each person takes it, they answer a series of like 40 questions. And then you take a score after that, and it gives you 4 letters that correspond to different things. I am an ISTJ, which is like an introvert and thinking and sensing and judging. And there's a bunch of different letters and combinations you can be. So the point behind doing this is you get to understand what everyone's personality is. You know, you might think someone's a certain way, but we took everyone's score and we put it on a whole chart on the board. And we put everyone's name and we put what their 4 letters were. So you could step back and see, oh, I'm totally surprised that this person's this way, or that this person's this way, that this person's much more of a thinking person, or this person senses a whole lot more. You know, I'm surprised. I don't really consider myself an introvert, but it's not really an introvert in the sense that you might think introvert versus extrovert. And there's a whole lot of different stuff that I'm not going to get into and bore you with, but the relevance of it was just trying to figure out how we interact better with each other. So in the workplace, improving organizational teamwork is the goal of most teams' building activities. But the Bible describes teamwork even further. It's the visible illustration of a people who are united with the same purpose, because that's what the Bible is. It's a guide for us to live by. So we need to recognize these examples in the stories of the Bible. So at CLF, the ultimate goal of our championship is seeing God's glory truly manifested in this body. Each one of us plays an important role, but what we need to do is we need to identify what those roles are. The Lord has a different role for each one of us, and we need to fulfill them. And it's important that this is recognized as a 2-step process. We have to, 1, identify what our role is, but then we have to go and carry it out. If you can identify what it is, but you don't carry it out, then what's the point? Like Dick Hoyt, he recognized that what his son needed, he needed to feel alive, and he was given that through the opportunity of racing. So he decided to do something about it. Another example, like the geese. The one who's in the front, they're not doing the honking. 1, because they're in the front, so they don't need to. There's not someone behind them. But also, they're not wasting their breath by doing that honking. They're doing more work. They're taking on the wind. They're breaking the wind for the others. But they recognize what their role is, and they're just moving, and they're going forward in that. So there's a few obstacles, though, when it comes to teamwork and establishing a team. The first one of those can be negativity. We need to focus on the good in others. We are all unique, and it's very important to recognize this. We can't change other people. You know, we all have these different, that's kind of the whole thing with the personalities. You can't really change someone's personality. You have to learn how to deal with it and function with it. Some of us are drawn to more people than others. And this is perfectly a natural thing. Is it a bad thing? No, it's not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes others can annoy us, but that also means that sometimes we annoy others. Pastor said it on Sunday pretty bluntly, pretty plainly. When there's an issue with someone or something, God is working on both of you through it. It's not just a one-sided thing. So we have to focus on the good, and then hopefully the negativity will go away. 1 Peter 4:8-10. Above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins. Show hospitality to one another without grumbling. As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. Think of a couple of just real simple examples. Cleaning the church being one of those. I certainly sometimes can do it with a grumbling spirit on a Friday night or a Thursday after service or a Saturday morning if I want to be sleeping or that sort of thing. But that's not a good thing. We need to work on that. Maybe if someone in the body is sick or someone has had a child, and it's important for us to make a meal for them and help them out. Have to do that not doing that with a grumbling heart, but do that with joy. Teammates need to use their talents to serve others because each talent varies. We have to adapt their skills to fit the gaps that the church or the team needs filled. We can't all be the same. We would be very boring if we were just all the same, and not a whole lot would get accomplished. Think of a soccer team, for example. A goalie is the person who's going to stop the shots from going in the goal. They're more defensive-minded. Someone has to score goals in order to win the game. A coach has to sit on the sideline and draw up the plans or come up with a game plan and put the people in their positions to put them in a chance to win that game. Being kind and serving gladly instead of complaining is a tremendously important skill for teammates. As hard as this can be, it truly is very important. Obstacle number 2, probably the biggest one, the one Pastor talks about all the time, our mind. I think of star athletes on a team. How much more do they care about the status of their image or their tattoos or whatever else, how they're going to look on TV? And how much do they not care about the actual team, the actual goal? In reality, the best leader is one who lifts a person up and elevates others to a higher position than they thought they could ever be. I think of Michael Jordan. Granted, he is debatably the best basketball player ever to have lived, but he also has 6 championships to prove it, and he couldn't do that on his own. Many of the players around him, granted some others were Hall of Famers as well, but others were just ordinary guys, and he elevated them to another level because it was going to take him and 4 other guys to win those games and win those championships. This is very rare because it is very hard to do. Because let's face it, in our human nature, in our mind, usually we're concerned with ourselves before someone else. Proverbs 27:17, we're all pretty familiar with this one. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. This can be very difficult. Iron sharpening iron doesn't make a very pleasant sound. It doesn't make a very pleasant feeling either, but it's essential to growing. The power of leadership is best summarized in one word: influence. As teammates and brethren, our expectations and attitudes and behaviors absolutely impact those around us. We are all sharpened and improved by the interactions and examples of our peers. So let's talk about bringing uniqueness together. I get these daily business digests from work, and there just happened to be a quote the other day from a famous Wall Street broker from the early 1900s. This guy was like a millionaire at that time by like the age of 30 or something crazy. But anyways, he said, "We did not all come over on the same ship, but we are all in the same boat." We have decided to get in the same boat and sail through the waters in the same direction. Right? I mean, we're all sitting in these seats for that reason, right? Should be, at least. I think of the sport of crew, especially in the really large boats. Everyone has to have their paddles in the water, pointed in the right direction, and going at the right pace and the right speed in order to achieve that maximum rate of miles per hour that you can achieve in those boats in order to win that race. It all has to be in unison. If one person decides to go the other way or get out of sync with the rhythm, then it's just not going to work well. It's not going to function. I know most of my examples are sports, but just apply them to the role in our body of Christ and on the CLF team. There's many places we could do that. So once again, I liken to a professional sports team. All the players on the team, they might not want to hang out together all the time when they have free time. They want to spend time with their families, or maybe they just aren't going to always hang out for whatever reason outside of their team aspect. But when they're on the field, they know their role or position and are united to a common goal to win. A winning championship team, it's not always the team with the best players, but the team that is truly the most united and sold out for each other. This is a pretty familiar passage of Scripture. I'm going to read it from the Message, and it really gets to the point pretty plainly. That's what I like about the Message. The Message can be good and bad, but this one says it pretty well. 1 Corinthians 12, 17 through 27. If the body was all eye, how could it hear? If all ear, how could it smell? As it is, we see that God has carefully placed each part of the body right where He wanted it. But I also want you to think about how it keeps your significance from getting blown up into self-importance. For no matter how significant you are, it is only because of what you are part of. An enormous eye or a gigantic hand wouldn't be a body, but a monster. What we have is one body with many parts, each its proper size and in its proper place. No part is important on its own. Can you imagine eye telling hand, get lost, I don't need you, or head telling foot, you're fired? Your job has been phased out? As a matter of fact, in practice, it works the other way. The lower the part, the more basic and therefore necessary. You can live without an eye, for instance, but not without a stomach. When it's a part of your own body you are concerned with, it makes no difference whether the part is visible or clothed, higher or lower. You give it dignity and honor just as it is, without comparisons. If anything, you have more concern for the lower parts than the higher. If you had to choose, wouldn't you choose good digestion to full-bodied hair? The way God designed our bodies is a model for understanding our lives together as a church. Every part dependent on every other part, the parts we see and the parts we don't. If one part hurts, every other part is involved in the hurt and in the healing. If one part flourishes, every other part enters into the exuberance. You are Christ's body. That's who you are. You must never forget this. Only as you accept your part of that body does your part mean anything. And like the geese we saw earlier, it's really important to encourage each other. Hebrews 10:24 and 25. And let us consider how we may spur on one another on toward love and good deeds. Do not give up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. Everyone in the body needs encouragement and wants to feel a part of something greater than themselves. Fellowship meetings, men's or ladies' meetings, fellowship like we had this past Sunday, that was great. People were here for a really long time. Those are important things. The softball team, whatever. These things, what they do is they build relationships, a cohesiveness and appreciation for each other. It's team bonding. So, in conclusion, give of ourselves in love, like the Hoyts. Work together in formation, with one purpose, sharing the load, like the geese. So let us press on together toward the mark. Philippians 3:14. I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. We will be 71% further ahead if we can do this together. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, this isn't intended in any way to be anything negative, and I hope no one would take it that way. I don't think that there's anything wrong with this body. I love this body. It's a great body. I hope everyone else feels that way too. But we can always do more. We can always try to do more to lift each other up and build each other up, and we just have to figure out the ways to do that. And that's pretty much it. Thank you. All right.